Hey guys, welcome back to another art lesson at the Bakersfield Museum of Art. Thank you so much for joining me again today. Today we have a really cool project in store for you in which we're going to be covering topics such as surrealism as well as photomontage. And I think you're going to have a really good time. Now if you don't recall what surrealism is, all it is taking a realistic scene but adding in some unrealistic elements to it. And photomontage, of course, is the assembly of different photographs to portray a photograph in a different way. And today's project is going to be based off of Scott Mutter's work, who's a very awesome surrealist photomontage artist. And he's currently featured in our black and white exhibition at the museum right now. Now, before we dive into the project, I want to take a moment and talk a little bit about Scott Mutter and his work, and especially the pieces that are currently on display at the museum. Chicago-born Scott Mutter graduated from the University of Illinois, receiving a bachelor's degree and 2 master's degrees. His professional career began as a filmmaker, but in the process of making his first full-length film in the 1970s, he abandoned the project and veered towards still photography. With his focus in photomontage, Mutter worked to create evocative images that are fueled with an eerie, almost apocalyptic feeling. In his work, we see his interest in the 2 forces that act upon human beings, the natural world and the world that humans have built around themselves. Now, as you can see with Scott Mutter's work, he's expertly taken different portions of his photograph and combined them to create a really surreal and wild scene, and that's what we're going to attempt to do today. But before we dive into our project, we're going to need to assemble our supplies. For this project, you're going to need a pair of scissors, some paste or a glue stick, a sheet of paper, and some old newspapers and magazines that you don't mind cutting up. Now the first thing you want to do is go through your materials, and you want to pick out different images that you want to incorporate into your art piece. Landscapes make a great background, but I would shy away from anything that's maybe a cartoon. We want to keep this like a photograph. We want to have a realism. With your images selected, go ahead and begin to carefully cut out each image. As you do this, you'll want to think about how you're going to incorporate each image together. Remember that the surreal is when reality meets the extraordinary. Now that you have your images carefully cut out, I would suggest that you play around with them. See what fits where and what can make an interesting composition. I suggest that before diving into gluing, because gluing is committing to the final piece. Now I already have an idea in mind as to what I want my final piece to look like, so I've gone ahead and started. I was fortunate enough to find some really cool images of Yosemite National Park, so I think that I went ahead and did a wilderness theme. We want to go ahead and make sure and apply a generous amount of paste or glue to our images so that they hold tight. And as you can see, I'm kind of layering things. So I've used this vintage picture of all these very stately looking men seated at a dinner table. And I'm going to use that as my sky or background in front of these mountains. And I found this really cool castle that I went ahead and cut out the full castle, but then I actually cut the castle in half so that I can put it on both sides to kind of create like a maybe like a gate or an entrance to this really wonderful forest area. And finally, I was able to find these 3 little hikers, which I carefully cut out. And I just think when I was doing this piece, I was thinking of maybe the old travelers looking down at the new travelers, even though the people in the sky seem to be looking at the viewer. But I thought it would be a neat juxtaposition of the older generation as well as the newer generation of people enjoying the Yosemite or the wilderness. And with my final traveler in place, I can call my piece complete. Now, a fun thing that you can do with your image when you're all done with it is it'll probably have a lot of different variations in color as you're using different clippings and things like that. And what you can do is you can take a photo of your completed image and with a digital camera, if you have access to it, And go ahead and, once you have that, go ahead and set it to just having black and white, and you'll get a completely different feel for your newly created artwork. Now, if you don't have access to a digital camera, you can also bring this to a photocopier and make a black and white photocopy of it for the same effect. So, what do you think? I really hope you had as much fun with this project as I did, and I would encourage you to continue to work with Photomontage, Surreal or otherwise, as it's a really cool facet of the art world. I sure appreciate you guys joining us today here at the BMoA, and I hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.